Hello everyone, Charles Watts here. Welcome back to Inside Arsenal and welcome to the Gtech Stadium where it's just finished here. Brentford 1, Arsenal 3. Really good away win this was for Arsenal in the Premier League, especially after going behind early on. Brentford, no mugs at this place. Very difficult to beat here, as they've shown with their results so far this season. But to be honest, I thought Arsenal dealt with them pretty comfortably, despite that little scare going behind early on. Very similar way. So they went behind in that game against Fulham not so long ago when they just absolutely dominated the first 10 minutes, were camped in and around the Fulham penalty area. Fulham broke through and scored on their first attack, and Brentford did exactly the same thing today with Bryan Mbeumo scoring. And when that happened, you thought, oh, God, here we go again. Especially this is, an Arsenal team that was beginning to get used to life without Bukayo Saka. You thought, how are they going to respond to that? And they responded very well and came away deserving winners, no doubt about it, deserving winners from this game. They restricted Brentford to basically nothing after their goal. And yeah, they scored 3 good goals themselves to claim the win and to move to within 6 points of leaders. Liverpool kicking 2025 off in style with a winning start to the year. And yeah, it was really good. But I thought Mikel was an interesting team selection. Obviously, he went with Ethan Nwaneri. There's no Kai Havertz. I'm sure you would have seen there was lots of talk about sort of sickness bugs sweeping through the camp in the build-up to today's game. Those rumours started doing the rounds a few hours before kickoff, and then when we got here, there was no Kai Havertz getting off the team coach at the stadium. And yeah, we'll wait and see what Mikel's saying in his press conference down here. He did before the game, he did sort of hint that there was a few players who were struggling with this illness issue. There was no Havertz at all. Declan Rice was only on the bench. So we had Ethan Nwaneri starting on the right-hand side, his first Premier League start on the ground, of course, where he made his first Premier League appearance as a 15-year-old, a good couple of years ago now. So he came in on the right-hand side. You had Martinelli moving back over to the left. Jesus continued up front in the absence of Kai Havertz. So you had Marino, Partey and Odegaard in midfield. So certainly wasn't the starting lineup I was expecting or predicting earlier today. Got that one very wrong. And I was interested to see how it was going to sort of pan out, especially with Nwaneri playing over on the right-hand side. You looked at the front three and thought, going to struggle against this strong Brentford team in terms of holding up the ball potentially. That was my sort of fear when I saw the starting lineup anyway, and I wondered how sort of physically Nwaneri was going to be able to cope with what was to come. But I thought he played really well. He was comfortable on the ball. He looked to sort of run at Brentford when he could. It was I saw someone on social media say it was kind of similar to when we used to play Santi Cazorla over on the right-hand side. And I thought that was a really good comparison, really, because obviously, look, you don't look at Nwaneri and think that he's now an out winger. Obviously, he loves cutting in on his left, like Saka does, but Saka's definitely more of a winger than Ethan is, playing in that role. But what Ethan did give you over here when he played over there was the ability to beat his man. Obviously, very comfortable on the ball, backs himself when he's in those sort of one-on-one situations. And I thought he played really well. He was lively, linked up well with the other forwards. And yeah, he can be very happy with his performance. He came off sort of late on in the second half, but he can be very happy with his performance. And yeah, on the whole, I just thought it was a good, solid Arsenal display, especially after that poor start. And it was such an Arsenal goal to concede. Like I said, they dominated the first 10 minutes. Brentford had not got out of their own half, and then Odegaard had the ball. We lost possession, really poor. I think he was trying to find Marino. It was a poor pass. It was intercepted. Brentford broke down the right with Mbeumo. Calafiori obviously starting his first game for a while after injury. Let Mbeumo cut inside on his left foot. And it was one of those classic moments when Mbeumo took the shot. It went through Calafiori's legs and Raya was beaten at his near post, sort of got down a little bit late, probably because he was quite unsighted that it went through the defender's legs. And it was 1-0, and you're just like, after all that, a decent start, you sort of find yourself behind, and all those sort of flashbacks of what happened at Fulham came flooding back. And it could have got worse soon after. David Raya, this is his first game back at Brentford, because he missed the games last year because he was on loan. This is his first game starting here. I don't know if that played a part early on. He was a little bit nervy, but then he let a Lewis Potter shot sort of squirm through his hands, and it looked like it was going to go over the line, but he got back, fair play to him, sort of clawed it away off the line to stop it going 2-0. And that was a really crucial moment in the game, because within a minute, Arsenal were level. They'd broken down the pitch and got themselves level. Thomas Partey showing the, how important it is just to shoot at times. Some of his teammates need to take take heed of that. But he had a dig from outside the area. The keeper saved it, spilled it sort of out into a dangerous area, and there was Gabriel Jesus reacting really well to head home, make it 1-1. That's 6 goals in 4 games for Gabriel Jesus. And it was a real sort of poacher's goal from him to bring it back to 1-1. I think you just felt a real sort of relief around Arsenal when that went in. It's like, okay, we're back level before half time. That's important. and now we really need to kick on in the second half and get this job done. And to be fair, they did. They did it. They sort of flew out the blocks early in the second half, boosted obviously by the goal, playing pretty confidently, and they got a quick-fire double that just basically killed the game. I think it was 50 minutes. Marino scored to make it 2-1. It was Ethan Nwaneri's corner. Brentford failed to deal with it. I think a shot came in from Jesus that sort of deflected into the path of Marino, and he was in the right place at the right time to make it 2-1. And then within 3 minutes, Martinelli had made it 3-1. Really good finish from Martinelli again. It sort of came from down the right hand side. It was Ethan Nwaneri crossing it in. One of the Brentford players sort of headed the cross out, and it fell to Martinelli, but it was a touch and finish from Martinelli to make it 3-1. You can see it really meant a lot to him. Good celebrations from him after that game. And there was still a long time to go. That was 53rd minute, I think, but it just sucked the life out of Brentford, that quick fire double, and Arsenal were really, really confident after that. They passed the ball around well. They could have had a couple more, maybe a couple of breakaway opportunities. Raya to Martinelli became a bit of a theme in that second half. Arsenal looking to play on a counter-attack. When Raya had the ball, Martinelli would go, Raya would try and find him. One time it led to a really good breakaway, which ended with Gabriel Jesus putting one just wide. The second time it looked like Martinelli was going to get on the end of it and go through 1-on-1, but the keeper came out and just about cleared before Martinelli could get on the ball. And yeah, Brentford just never looked. You think about the amount of goals that Brentford score at this stadium and have done this season, they never really looked like they were going to get themselves back in the game. Gabriel was excellent. William Saliba was excellent. In the build-up to this game, I thought those two were going to have really solid games. And if they did, then that would allow Arsenal to... Because you always knew they're going to get space against this Brentford team, because as good as Brentford are at home, they do concede goals. And as long as you could defend well, and when Arsenal got players like Saliba and Gabriel, they normally do defend well, then they should have chances on the counter and on the break and in space that Brentford leave behind. And they did that. So it was a really good win in the end for Arsenal. You could see the celebrations afterwards. There were some good performances. I'll go through my player ratings in a minute. Gabriel Jesus, Thomas Partey, I thought was excellent. I've talked about Ethan Nwaneri. And, in the sort of post Bukayo Saka, I'm now talking like Bukayo Saka's moved on. Obviously, he's not. He's going to be back, hopefully, within a few months. But in this sort of era, whatever you want to call it, that Arsenal are going to have to go through in the next few months without Bukayo Saka, we saw Gabriel Martinelli start on the right against Ipswich, didn't really sort of seize the opportunity. It was a little bit different this time with Nwaneri, a different sort of threat down that right-hand side, and he certainly did take his opportunity. He showed, as we all know, he's more than capable at this level. You don't need, just because he's 17, doesn't look like he's overawed by the situation at all. And he's had a couple of difficult appearances recently, Ethan Nwaneri. And I think that impressed me even more today, that he came back after those difficult performances and then produced a performance like this on his first Premier League start, where he just looked totally at home. Arsenal wanted to get him the ball. When he was on the ball, he took responsibility when he was on it, and that's just what you want from someone, especially when you're sort of trying to replace such a key player like Bukayo Saka is. So it wouldn't surprise me now, I imagine, against Brighton. One blow, actually, Jurgen Timber got booked, which means he's going to miss the game against Brighton, which you would think would probably mean that Thomas Partey is going to have to play it right back against Brighton. It's not ideal when you've got players like Matoma to come up against. So that's a bit of a blow. The one sort of negative really on Arsenal's performance here was the fact that Jurgen Timber is now going to miss the Brighton game. So I'll see what Mikel Arteta sort of comes up with to be without when it comes to sort of making light of his absence in the game against Brighton. As I said, you would suggest it's going to be Thomas Partey at right back. Okay, let's move on now, shall we, to some player ratings before we wrap this one up. David Raya, I gave 6 to David Raya. Like I said, he just looked unusually nervy in the first half. He was back to his usual self in the second half. Fair play to him, claimed crosses well. Was comfortable every time the ball came in and around his penalty area. But in that first half, it was just a bit slow to get down, probably unsighted, as I said, when the shot came through Calafiori's legs for the goal. But then the Lewis Potter strike, we just haven't seen something like that from David Raya for a long, long time. He's so good. So, when he came for shots or crosses or anything like that, he barely, makes any sort of error. So to see something like that in the first half was very, very surprising. To his credit, like I said, he got back up quickly and made sure that the ball didn't go in. But I gave him a 6 out of 10. Jurgen Timber gave a 7. Booked, as I said, in the first half, so I missed Brighton, so that was disappointing. But, other than that, he was solid as always. I gave the 2 centre-backs 8 out of 10. I thought they were great. Didn't really give Brentford a sniff in the central areas at all. The one real, the goal came from down the right-hand side, obviously, against Calafiori. But, from the central areas, when you've got players like Visa and Mbuemo, you're going to have to be really on it as centre-backs. And Arsenal, 2 centre-backs, as always, were on it. So I gave Saliba an 8 and I gave Gabriel an 8. Calafiori, he looked like a player who was making his first start after a long time out with injury. Could have done better with the first goal against Mbuemo. Backed off, let him get a shot away. Was sloppy in possession at times. It grew into the game, I thought, Calafiori, but it's definitely room for improvement there from him, and I'm sure he will improve as he gets back up to full fitness and to full speed. So I gave Calafiori a 6 in midfield. Thomas Partey, I thought Thomas Partey was probably Arsenal's man of the match tomorrow. It's close. It was sort of coin flipping between Partey, Nwaneri, and Jesus. I think Jesus got it on from TNT. Obviously scored a goal, and I think got credited with assists for the second goal, so that probably swung it for him. But I think Thomas Partey was probably Arsenal's best player, him and Nwaneri for me. So I gave Partey an 8. He's just always involved, always looked to get the ball moving. His shot led to the equaliser. As I said, just showed the strength of actually having a shot on goal when you have a sight of it, because you never know what's going to happen. Even if it doesn't go in, it can take a deflection, or the keeper can spill it, as was the case, and that led to Jesus' equaliser. So good performance from Thomas Partey, gave him an 8. Mikel Merino, I gave a 7. Thank God he got some grief in the first. I'm just watching him, actually, as I'm talking about him. Mikel Merino's just walked out to do media right in front of me, and he was getting some grief in the first half on social, which I thought some of Arsenal's good play was down that left-hand side, and he was heavily involved in it. I thought he got himself into some useful positions. Obviously popped up with the goal in the second half, which was crucial. So I gave Merino a 7 out of 10. Odegaard I gave a 6. Poor pass to give away possession in the build-up to Brentford's goal. Just looked a little bit off it throughout the game. He's got a pass, the odd pass was overhit or misplaced. Just things like that. Things where he'd normally be, he's so clinical. Just wasn't the case this time. It just seemed a little bit off it. I don't know if he was one of the players who's been affected by this illness that's going through the camp at the moment. But I gave Odegaard a 6. In attack, Nwaneri gave an 8. Misplaced 2 passes all game, which shows how good he was in possession when he was on the ball and how calm he was. Second and third goals both came from crosses that he would put in. So I gave Ethan an 8. Jesus I gave an 8 as well. Another goal for him. Rejuvenated Brazilian in front of our eyes, just playing so well at the moment. Brentford fans were booing him off the pitch. He had his shirt ripped. He was just that sort of Jesus who we knew and loved at the start of his time at Arsenal, just causing chaos, getting on the nerves of fans and players, and winning fouls, getting his shirt ripped by people sort of trying to drag the shirt off his back. So yeah, good performance from Jesus. Loved his goal as well, real poacher's goal, getting himself on the end of it. Good header from him. So I gave him 8 out of 10. Gabriel Martinelli, I gave a 7 out of 10. Much improved, I thought, after the interval. Martinelli, when he had more space to run into, really good finish as well to make it 3-1 for him. So yeah, gave Gabriel Martinelli a 7 out of 10. All the subs came on. He made 5 subs, Mikel, but they were all in the last 10 minutes. So I can't really mark any of them because I know, they weren't really on the pitch long enough, and the game was already dead and buried, and Arsenal were just sort of seeing the game out at that point. So Rice, Trossard, Lewis, Skelly, Jorginho, and Zinchenko all came on, but I can't really give any of them marks, to be honest. So I'll give them all NAs. Mikel, I gave 7 out of 10. He'll be really happy with this. Coming back, Arsenal have been pretty poor at coming back from going behind. So we're really happy that his team have done that. He made a big call with Nwaneri on the right, maybe influenced because of the fact that Kai Havertz had to drop out through illness or whatever it was. But he was rewarded for that faith he showed in Nwaneri. So I gave Mikel 7 out of 10 for today's game as well. And that's it from me. I'm just watching the Arsenal players heading back in now. The Arsenal subs heading back in to get ready for the coach. Mikel Merino just finishing off his interview now. Arsenal will be very, very happy with their day's work, their evening's work here as they kick off 2025 with a win. I'll be back tomorrow to do a much more in-depth reaction show, going over what Mikel Arteta has had to say in his press conference, that sort of thing. You want to get involved in the show, you know what to do. Get down into the comments, leave me your thoughts on what impressed you about today, what didn't impress you about today, what Mikel should probably do for the game against Brighton that is coming up. Get into the comments, give me your views. I'll pull them together and get them included in tomorrow's show. So from Brentford here, it is finished. The start of 2025. Brentford 1, Arsenal 3. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.